This video demonstrates how to construct a two-way summary table. I've got a small data set here for you just to illustrate how we use this in Excel, where the data is looking at private schools, the location within the country and the type of school, i.e. is it coeducational, is it girls only or is it boys only. What we're going to do is we're going to use a command in Excel known as pivot table, which will allow us to do a table which would count up how many girls only schools there are in the north of England, how many boys only schools there are in the south of England, and so on. So to do this, you can see that I've already got two columns of data set up in the spreadsheet, and the easiest way usually to do these tables is to start off by actually highlighting all the data that you've got. So I'm just going to do that very briefly. Okay, and then I'll just move myself back up to the top of the screen so you can see the labels at the top. Pivot tables are constructed via the insert menu. So by clicking on pivot table, you will end up with a pop-up menu that will appear in the middle of the screen. This will be partially filled in just because I've actually highlighted the data that I wanted to work with before I started, and that's given in the top half. In the bottom half, it just asks you where you want to actually place your final table. I normally will put it on the worksheet that I'm working on, but you have got an option to actually create a completely new worksheet. So I'm going to click on the option to do the existing worksheet, and I'm going to choose my location as to where to put the final table. A little word of caution in the fact that it will give you a layout on the screen, which if you had actually any data in the way, it would overwrite that data. So I'm just making sure that I pick a cell which is well away from my data set, just in case there's any overwriting by accident. So I happen to have just picked cell E2 in this case, and I'll click on OK. And it'll give you this layout that I mentioned in the middle of the screen. Then to the right hand side of the screen, what it will do is it will pick up the labels that you have actually given, your two different columns, if they have got those labels in there. And then on the bottom half of the screen, it gives you four boxes, and these are the ones that we focus on to create the table. We have a box called report filter, which is very rarely used, so I'll not talk about that today. But we then have the other three, which are column labels, row labels, and then the values. There is another video which shows you how to do a simple one-way pivot table. This is showing you the more usual ones that you would use, which would have the data going two ways. The process to construct them is really quite easy. It's a case of dragging and dropping labels into the relevant boxes. So here I'm going to create a table which is just showing how many of each type of gender are in the different locations. The actual design of the table is very personal, it's up to you. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to pick up gender type, and I'm going to select that as labels for columns, and it will show those on the screen. Then, if I want that actually to be cross-tabulated, so I'm creating subtotals underneath it, I'll pick up the next data set, which is the school's location, and I'm going to have that option as my row labels, and it creates a blank table at the moment on the screen. So it's created the labels for you, but you don't actually have any values at the moment. To select the values, very easy process. You can pick up either of the two labels, it doesn't matter which one. You just pick one of them back up again and put it into the values box. And behind the screen, which you'll see in a minute, you can see that it's actually started to do the counting up for you. So what I can do is I could close like this menu to the side so you can see the whole thing. Okay, I'll just put that back on again so that you can see the actual menu that it creates at the side there. So the only other thing to make note of is, depending on the way that the particular computer has been set up, it might have a different default to count. Like for instance, it might have sum. So if it does actually have something that says sum there by just by default, to actually get the values that you want, because you want to just know how many boys-only schools there are in the east of the country. Then you would just click on this little arrow to the side. Then we've got an option called Value Field Settings, and that creates a menu, which means that you can actually choose what you want the table to show. So generally we want just to kind of like have a counted table. Very rarely we might want to have sums, or we might want to have averages or minimums or maximums, but in general we just use count. So if that one isn't selected, you just select that one and just say OK, but obviously in this case it was already set up. So again, I'll just close down that menu, and you can see that we've got the final table created on the screen very quickly and very simply.